team that they didn't really
to get here, and they have had massive success to make it all the way here. But once you're here, you're with all of the big dogs, and ultimately, there's always got to be some teams that just end up statistically in that last place. Once you get here to this very of the entire world,
for that third place, but Alpha
player, so he wants.
He's tearing through the window. Oh, two! Finds one, finds two. He's doing the devil's work on the inside right now because FaZe are falling apart. Just the one player left, and he turns to go. Oh! Third for Nenebete on the pump action. Incredible hold on the inside. He doesn't need armor. He doesn't need a helmet. He's got the chunk through and through. The rest of the cavalry arrive, and Vitali puts it to sleep. FaZe fall flat.
Wow. That's all I gotta say. Wow. Nenebete with the shotgun. Not just, you know, the DBS that, you know, we've seen mow people down. That's the pump shotgun. That takes some skill to use. Only 2 shots, you know, per pump right there, and he gets 3. I think FaZe just got scared after the first knocks. They definitely took that multiple 1v1s against Nenebete and FaZe. They're a team that's been struggling today. They had a little bit of a success the previous game with Mormon, you know, snaking it all the way in, but the way they went out in the very last game of the day has really got to hurt the morale.
That is the fattest L that FaZe have just taken. It is incredible stuff. As I said, he didn't have any armor, he didn't have a helmet going forwards. He was just like, I'm just going to go and get this solo player. And they roll up and was like, don't worry, we got you. They, dear reader, did not have him. They very much lost out on that one. That was spectacular from Nenebete. I mean,
yes,
this is what we wanted to see, right? This is what we've been waiting for from the Inco roster, to pull out these special players. We've seen Nenebete do it before. It looks like he's just about found his foot here, but that is only mechanical play. And I say only in the most respectful of terms, because it was spectacular. But they have to rotate here, they have to play strong, and find these openings that they have been denied so far.
I think Inco's really starting to feel themselves, though. I think it was just the very last game that they finally showed a bit more signs of life, picked up more points than they have been, and now starting off with 4 elimination points. Not just any 4, right? It's a 1v3 from Nenebete that can really pump up the team, get the squad, you know, fired up. So great job for Inco. Question is, intense game. The other Brazilian squad that we have in here, can they do something similar? And they are going to be challenged right now by Nexruya, it seems. Oh, maybe not.
Sprayed down for intense game. A lot of damage found, and Nexruya, they're just going to divert. Get a little bit further around.
Oh.
Fortunately, Diego's on the swivel and able to rip one out of the vehicle. Frozen looking to reposition for the res.
A little bit of a communication mishap, it seems. That Jeep was driving in like they wanted to take the fight, and then it swerved off at the last second, causing them a lot of damage. And now, intense game, we know they're very aggressive, but with the way things have been going, I think they might switch it up and not look to continue this fight, just hold this position down. They're in a decent spot, not really center, but definitely in a good spot to continue the rest of the game with some smooth rotation. So they're going to hunker it down, especially with another team close by in Hyper, looking for some potential third-party action. They picked up 1 point in Hyper onto a different team, not the teams that we were just looking at. So both teams will reset.
Just looking to disengage, find their feet. Nice little hop there from Diego, finds the top floor. Nicely. Tail look to play a little bit more central over towards Minas Generalis. They've got control of the compound, playing as 3. After losing Sky only earlier. Remember to the SKS shots from Koi.
Oh, right.
From N Hyper, right on the drop. It was the first blood of the lobby. As the circle pushes out east a little bit further. The north side of Los Leones occupied by 3 players of Canina Power. Not too sure who picked up that point. It might have been Nasa, but I'm not entirely sure exactly who was able to pick that one up, because that's the only other point I see on the tables. But Nasa kind of far away from Canina Power, so maybe it was on the drop.
Yeah, might have been on the drop. It is definitely Nacer that picked up the point because we see 4 from Inko, and well, I mean, we know where those 4 points came from, as there's only another team on here with 4 players missing, which is FaZe. Like you mentioned, a big L for them, and then Hyper picked up that early point with the SKS off drop. So Nacer, the likely culprit of Konina's 1 missing player there, and it's gotta be rough for Konina Power, man. Coming into this match, starting it off with 3, you know, you're last place right now with 5 points. And what you really have to think about, John, every team coming in here, their goal is to aim for top 3. And by the end of day 1, you could already be changing that target to, oh, let's just make it to survival stage. And that might be where the head's at for Konina Power.
I think at this point, I feel like it's probably even better to just change your mindset to game, right? Not even think about the tournament stakes. I mean, it's kind of impossible, to be fair, to be in this situation and not think about the tournament stakes, but you just got to focus on game to game and try and have that mental fortitude that really makes global championships. This is an East shift circle, and this might play into Konina Power's favor. We saw quite a few military island circles over in the European Championship. We also saw a lot of southeast finishes near Impala, near Puerto Paraíso in the European Championships. So Konina Power have played a lot of these circles recently against a strong lobby. Let's see if they can transition that into a strong performance here. But they only have 3 players, and there's a lot of teams at their back.
Yeah, let's see if they could convert some points here with a shift like this. This is Circle 2. This is already looking like, you know, Circle 4 with how small the zone is. Some of it, you know, being in the water does attribute to that. But then you have the high grounds east of Impala, which is going to be very hard to get to play at. Inko coming in on the rotation. A lot of teams making a mad dash rotation to see who could get some open spots here early on. And Inko swerving around, Squash, and that bus definitely might go down here. And yes, he does get caught. But that's the risk you got to take for these long rotations. Position is great, but you might lose players along the way.
Good news, Konina Power getting into this position, starting to lay claim to it as well. These buildings nice and covered off, leaving 1 player up in the hills as well, giving that backstop. I like this position for Konina Power. This is a good rotation in my eyes. 7th Element starting to push in from the western edge, trying to cross these open fields. It is very, very treacherous in this area to the west, the northwest of Impala, and teams most likely going to look for sanctuary inside the settlement.
And Hyper in a great spot, playing a 2-2 split once again. 2 at that compound and 2 in the city of Impala. I feel like this is the only team that maybe it's because, you know, I'm used to in Hyper who always play these splits, but really I'm looking at other teams and I don't see these like central position 2-2 splits from really anyone else. Correct me if I'm wrong, John, but I'm not really seeing that from any other teams.
I don't think you're wrong. I think you're on the money with that one. Certainly the boldest splits we've seen, as evidenced by the previous match where they were holding out 2 full squads, Morph and I think it was NB on the western side. So definitely aggressive in their splits. They want to control a lot of the ground.
And it's been working out. They haven't been getting the placement points, but we saw the devs talking about it earlier. They have 26 elimination points last we checked, and maybe 7 placement points, if I remember correctly. As Ralph, he is certainly done for.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's the vehicle that finishes them off. But it's Konina Power, again, to pick up another point. This is 2 points this match. They're playing on the south side. Hopefully, they'll be familiar enough with their progression forwards from the experience they've had in this area recently to be able to launch a campaign for this match. But STE on that sort of crossroads in a really, really strong spot.
Yeah, that's a dangerous position. Not for STE, but for other teams. It may not look like much, but that position with that ridgeline has full 360 coverage. They have 4 up as well. It's going to be a huge buffer zone for a lot of teams to try and break into. And with a zone shift like this, I think everyone's going to have to just condense a little bit more. No hard shifts to be had. Everyone should have a decent game plan coming into this zone.
Speaking of strong spots, we spoke about this aggressive split. The regroup for N-Hyper can come from Impala to fold them back together. I think they are going to look to find that as well. The position that they have is very, very central with Shifan being that outpost. But Konina Power spot the rotation. They find Koi, they tag him. Really, really good pickup here. on the south side to try and give them a little bit more of an opening as the ridges start to give way to gunfire.
NB Esports on the south side, maneuvering around here. The center, not super condensed, but that's just because there's so many strong positions in the center that give out so much strong buffer zones like the sight lines that nobody is able to get much more closer. So we see a lot of people compacted around the edges of the zone here. Enigma Galaxy on one of the edges, going from the west edge, forced all the way down to wrap down to the south. That's just how difficult it is to break near center zone. The compound's just too strong, pushing so many teams away. This might be more than likely Enigma Galaxy's worst game. Can they even manage to pick up a point?
It will be very tricky to make their way through here. A chance for SDE to climb that value ladder, get up towards that top spot, but more importantly, solidify themselves towards the top three, because that is what a lot of these teams towards the top will be gunning for, right? It's basically, at the moment, the race of first to fifth, although everything very much can change. We've got 4 days of games, rather, to play out, and this is only the first of those 4 courses, so there's still a lot more of the meal left. But if you can get up into the top 3 at the start of the first day, it's got to feel good. So making sure that you're isolated in that position as much as possible. STE and Enigma Galaxy might be able to just open a really, really strong lead, certainly for the mental game.
Nasser on screen here, working the west side, very split up, getting as much information as possible, trying to open up the playbook depending on whatever shifts may occur here. 3 points already, so this is a better start for Nasser, and they have 3 members up. Or not 3, 4 members up, which is good. Circle 4, stage 4, about to come out here. Let's see where it goes. It's going to be a huge zone shift for all the teams involved in this match.
And the shift goes out with Impala still in. This is a really interesting finish, actually. I mean, the ground to the west of Impala, there's a couple of ridges, there's a couple of divots, but the position that next Ruya hold right now on the north side has a lot of control over that ground, not to mention the teams in the settlement itself.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard for all the west teams to break into the eastern circle and Hyper in a fortress. Next Ruya on the north, like you mentioned, in a fortress as well. Same with STE. They have 4 up on the roadside. It is going to be difficult for any team to drive by any of those teams. So let's see how this goes. Meanwhile, on the south, Nongstrom's going to head straight on into Impala, cutting through many teams and finding a nice little opening pocket deep in Impala.
They arrive at the same time as Inco, which allows them a route on through. They're going to bring one up at the back, and Becker bites the dust, unfortunately. It's not going to be good for the health. Nasa trying to leave their position out on the west side of this open ground. They're going to leave Spec behind. Victims of 7th Element. It is a really tricky progression for them. Very, very difficult to make the break here. Might be able to look for the res if the smoke was there in enough time. And on the north side, Adrian goes down as well. The Brazilian team lackluster in their performance today. Intense game, not really having a say so far. Inco have had more prevalence in these lobbies, but even they have kind of let Brazil's reputation down from that Group Green performance. Day 1, certainly a fall from grace.
Yeah, it was definitely going to be a hard performance to match. We have Duxon coming in here on the north side, the north edge, against Intense Game. Can Intense Game pull something out here? They really need the points. Going right into the compound, going up to the 2nd floor. The Duxon player is on the 1st floor, however, and he got a knock, I believe, onto the player on the outside. Confirms the point, too. Intense Game. I think they started off this fight with 4, if I'm not mistaken, but now they're caught in between Next Ruya and Duxon. And Intense Game, no matter what they do, it just is not working for them.
They lost Adrian on the approach. They lost that second just there to not checking if Zipyan was in the building, and he hops straight back in. I wonder if they're aware of it this time. Takes a lot of damage. Not too sure where that one's coming from. I think there might have been an off angle, but Cielo, in the meantime, for Intense Game, has been knocked, leaving only 1 player surviving. The drop down is there, but Zipyan is so many steps ahead of that one. He was already covering off the angle, and Zipyan breaks wide away from the blue zone, allows him to keep the building. He says, you know what, fine, you stay there. The blue zone's coming for us both. But it's going to damage us either way. I'm going to get ahead of the game and leave Diego to it.
I think both those players have been taking damage not from each other, but from third parties in the distance. So Diego trying, oh, what an angle to hold, and both shots going back and forth, and Cielo will go down. Not to Zipian though, it was actually Next Rio that picked up that point. And both players, yep, will meet the demise. Like I said, from the west side, east, I don't think anybody made it across. Nacer, yep, Nacer just went out. We had Duxon on the west, same with Intense Game. All of the teams on the west side not finding any success coming into the deadly side of the east.
Next circle shift. Is it going to go to Impala again, or is it going to give the open ground a little bit to breathe? It keeps Impala in for the most part. Next Ruya still have the outcrop that Zedwolf is sat on right now. And they have got a lot of control of these teams on the east. So STE, work cut out for them. They're going to have to find their way through this valley of death, really, between N-Hyper and Next Ruya.
I think we might just see STE take the fight with N-Hyper. There is a line for them to take that fight. It's not going to be easy, especially with Next Ruya on the north side with the high ground. We don't have a lot of sight lines onto everything happening in the open west, but we'll see what STE decides to do here. STE with 4 could mount up the next big fight. Meanwhile, in Impala, things are just getting scrappy out here. A lot of shots back and forth. Very hard to find confirmations with players sitting right next to compounds and in buildings.
Just trying to make their way through now. Canina Power have been surviving through this with the 2 eliminations that they were able to find. They are going to bide their time a little bit longer. Transitioning to the compound, they have to push further north now, though. And they'll meet a roadblock. All those teams agglomerating on the south side of Impala. Sunan lighting up the hills with the M249. A lot of damage sent towards STE, though. The 7th element are down to 2, but the nades are ringing true, and 33Z now under threat to this angle. Only the 1 knock sent back their way. It's Hero by the ramp, and the rest of the team, they're just going to fall together.
Oh, and Hyper.
They know they need to come through, and Hyper have broken from their sanctuary. They've moved out from their stronghold.
Wow.
We've implemented this sort of play before. Are they going to find effect here?
Let's see it. This is a great spot for N-Hyper because STE condensed way too hard. I'm not sure why they sent all 4 players to one spot to deal with 1 player of 7th element. This gave up all control on the roadside, giving a huge opportunity for N-Hyper to third party this, which they are. But N-Hyper, they haven't found an opening just yet. And N-Hyper, they usually take things slow, and this third party definitely is a little bit more on the slow, methodical side. They're gatekeeping them out of the zone, however, and that's exactly what N-Hyper wants to do. Still 4 up for STE, and they actually get a knock onto N-Hyper. This is, I feel like, the biggest pitfall out of N-Hyper. They're just not aggressive enough as a team. They recognize these opportunities, but the execution is rarely there.
They stumble over their shoelaces on that push, and it's just not going to find the effect that they were looking for. A vital mistake, potentially. 3 players still left for them. If they can pull themselves back together and maybe regroup for the next phase, they might still have a chance here. In urban environment finishes, I mean, you can absolutely win down a player. It's in these open ground, open terrain scenarios where it can be a little bit more tricky. So we'll see if the circle does actually go all the way into Impala, or if it's going to break to the outside of it as well. A lot of difficult terrain to manage, but the west side of Impala does have a nice ridge to push up towards if you're uncontested on that west side.
Yeah, but being uncontested on west side is going to be hard with 4 of STE up, 4 of Next Ruya up. It's going to come down to a huge clash between those 2 if the zone shifts towards the east. We'll see very shortly where it goes. And center's right on up, but the hillsides that STE are using right on the edge of that zone is not going to be in play, so they're going to have to be in the open. Same for Next Ruya, however. The high ground, the hard cover on the north, similarly not in zone. This could be a good fight between those 2 squads.
This is pretty tricky stuff. STE making their way. P24OP last to go down from 7th element, but they are isolated. Sunan takes a knock coming on through. That's from Next Ruya, from the forward position. And I just don't think you can approach Next Ruya's spot here with Zedwolf still on the higher ground on the rock, playing with such incredible oversight. I think you move forwards, you lose at least another player, if not more.
Let's see if they can get this revive. Oh, here comes N-Hyper once again on the third party. Will they have success this time around? Looks like one player pulling up really close. It looked like it was GK first. Koi on the off angle, taking shots at 33Z in the open, but the composure out of 33Z, taking down Koi and in Hyper. This is their biggest pitfall. I mentioned it earlier. They tried it once, being aggressive third party, not aggressive enough, slowed down too much, didn't work out. Second time around, the same exact fate, and now forced to just run away from the fight.
They play a little bit too coy in the fight, and they lose Koi in the process of it. They will not have the full confidence to roll over STE. And to be fair, who the hell has confidence to roll over STE? This team is incredible. Let's just put that out there. But you're right. It's definitely not the sort of thing that you can lack commitment in doing. You need that conviction to be in your side of the court if you want to make that work. They tried it twice. Neither time did it have the impact that they wanted it to. Kanina Power have managed to push in from this south side. They have managed to get to that ridgeline that I was talking about on the west side of Impala, but they are not uncontested. They very much have challenge in the form of Nick Galaxy as well. Freak finding the first knock over onto Gory. Becca now cowering behind the vehicles, trying to get an answer.
Ooh.
Lord is down and Freak is very, very low. This could be the end of Nick Galaxy as STE are getting cut down in the open as well.
Neighbors pretty much right now between STE and Nextria. Nextria definitely in a better defilade, not eating the shots that STE is. STE down to just 33Z. One player alive left for STE. Given the way the zone shifted, I feel like STE maximized the amount of points they can in the form of eliminations. You see they are up to 8, so it won't be a terrible game for them if they were to go out now. Nextria will be the kings of the western side of the road. Kanina Power is still here as well, though, on the west side of the road with 3. Nick Galaxy did get taken out, couldn't break in through that open terrain, and we are heading into the next zone shift. Will the west side, the open terrain, get a little bit of a blessing here with a western shift? We'll see very soon.
I think if it does, Kanina Power are the first to fall, right? Because you've got a lot of teams on this south side. It's a very nadeable position for Kanina Power. You can see the terrain is covering Kanina Power from next Ruya's position right now with the crook in the road, with the way that the terrain falls down from it. They have got a lot of cover for the time being, but they're right on the edge. They don't have as much threat as they did from STE, sure. But as soon as a team like Inco wants to cross out, try play that side of the road, the nades find them. Almost like magnets, they'll be right on top of this Kanina Power roster. Morph, though, I feel like this is a team in a prime location to have a good game here. And after their campaign so far in the second half of this first day, I feel like they deserve it as well. Hopefully they can hold their nerve.
What a molly right there. And it gets the knock. That's the opening that Inco might need. And with the new zone shift, right, it splits it right down the middle, 50-50. West side still has a lot to work with. Of course, the west side will go to the side of Nextria in a comfortable position. Kanina Power could still use that ridge just a little more, but everyone in the east side of the city will have to push up, and Inco tries to do so off that opening, but it's the third party from Morph. Great sightlines. Inco cut down to 2.
Unfortunate. They'll have to push further north. Try and move through here now. NB still holding strong on this front line. They've got worries of their own on other angles because they themselves are going to have to move a little bit further north. Do they want to try and disengage from Inco? And can they? Even if they do. 33Z, ducking, diving, bobbing, weaving, but it's not enough. Down he goes. And with it, STE out for the last match of today.
Kanina Power picking up that point. Kanina Power doing so much with just 3 from the very early game. A point here, a point there. Now they find themselves in the late game in a good spot with 4 elimination points. Morph, of course, in the best position, like you mentioned. Up to 8 elimination points. Looking for more. 4 players up for them as well.
They have great sightlines with Yor on the high ground. NB still in a fight. Coming on through with Nongshim. Red Force rolling on in, but the last player for NB still in action. It's Sek to look for the challenge. Maybe pop in through a window. Try and find those players that you're looking for. But this east side of Impala is so deadly. The nade on through comes in, and that is actually Hale third partying and trying to find the back line of Nongshim, Red Force, but there's still 2 players to worry about. In the meantime, NB are cleaned up, and Inco, they are right on that south side, but still in it, just about.
Oh, Kanina Power making some things happen on the west side, getting an opening and a finish. That is huge. It evens things out to a 3v3 on the west, and the circle keeps both sides of the road in zone once again. Does Canadian Power still have 3 up? I think they still do. This fight could go either way, as the east side very focused on each other in the urban fight. So the west side might be an isolated 3v3. Hale still looking in across the road, seeing if Flash can find anything here. Becca up close. No nades in hand, however, for any util knocks.
You can see Frozen broke down wide for next Ruya. I'm not too sure about that, to be honest. I feel like Canina Power couldn't have gone for that position. The only reason you do that is if you need something from the body there for Frozen, because you can keep control of these ridge lines maybe a little bit more effectively, or maybe you're just trying to stop Canina Power from going for that full side swipe with impunity. Either way, I feel like there could have been more value for Frozen staying with the rest of the team here.
I mean, Frozen went down for a revive on a knocked teammate, but your question still stands. Why was that teammate down there in the first place? They will lose that player. Here comes the finish. Inko does finally go out. Morph just holding down this fortress right now. And that is nade range of Canina Power, if they should throw some nades there. So that might come into play later on, because Morph pretty much dealt with everyone here. We have 2 of Nongshim and 3 of Hale on the northern side. Nowhere close to the Morph members. And Canina Power looking to make a play now. They isolate Frozen out there on his own. One more util should be good, but I don't think they have any left.
I don't think they necessarily want to expend it here either. Coming on through, they get a knock somewhere else. I'm not entirely sure who they were able to find there, but Bellucci rolls forwards but gets cut down. Zebwolf was there for the response. They found Yekta on the backline, and now Becca is suffering, and it's just coming apart at the seams here for Canina Power. It looked like they had a chance, but who's this? It's a third party.
Oh, Hale!
To bite back, Canina Power eliminated, and Hale have split south to the west side of the road. They've got a lot of utility in the back pocket. Waffle rolling through. Everybody wants the third party here, but we're down to just the 3 teams. Somehow,
oh,
Nongshim is still alive as well, and they're looking for 2 players to move on through.
Wow, Nongshim third party, the more third partying the other team, and Nongshim find an opening. And zone, this is stage 9, it's going down to the middle. It's a 3-way fight. It could go either way with the team's positioning. Hale loses 1. Morph down to the 3 players, 3v2v2. Morph looking to confirm that point. They still got more players to contend with. Slow and Cleon. Cleon on a nice angle, takes some shots. No knocks, he's in the open. Ooh. Cleon will go down.
Where was the challenge from those 2 down the hill? They do get that knock answer, but there's still 2 further up that they're going to have to deal with. Hale have gone down all the way to Flash. Morph, maybe looking for the res.
Oh!
XZY, absolutely on the swivel. The close position from Cleon. It's spotted around the side of the road. They might want the flush, but the ridgeline is under control. This is a brilliant spot for Nongshim.
Vehicle coming into play. Nice hard cover setup there. Will the blue zone push out more first? I believe so. Nongshim playing slow and quiet might actually win this match, and they're forced into open. Shots raining out here. Taking shots left and right. They cut down 1. It's all down to Boboho. Boboho not able to even find a single knock there. And Nongshim Red Force. I counted them out, seeing 4 players of Morph up in the city, but with the way things played out, everyone springing into third-party action. Nongshim come out ahead.
They managed to bookend the day with chicken dinners. They won Sandhawk. They're able to take it down on the second Miramar, the last match of the day. A really, really clean finish out coming on through. I don't think I would have predicted them at any stage to be able to take this one home, but fantastic stuff to be able to do so. Nice and clean right at the end. I feel like maybe a misstep right at the end for Morph as well, breaking out as far as they did. But when you give people the opportunity to take it home, they are going to take it, and the Korean roster will be all too happy. Qualifying for the Rivals Cup, they have certainly stood tall today. The first matches under their belt.
You could see on their face just Nongshim Red Force. They knew they kind of, I wouldn't say lucky, because they played that extremely well with the 2 players left, but they definitely got a little bit blessed there underneath all that chaos. Came in at the very end and swept up that chicken dinner. But it was a great game for all the teams involved. I feel like towards the very end of the match, everyone was looking to be proactive. A little bit slip-ups here and there for some teams that should have won the match. Ideally looking at Morph. But hey, a lot of points were earned from all of the teams.
Morph, actually, they got a lot of eliminations in that match. I think it was something close to 14 or so, finishing second place. that could realistically put them in first place at the end of the day, which is a really, really solid rise up the rankings for them. They'll certainly be, I think they'll be in second place, almost guaranteed, but we'll have to wait and see what the overalls end up saying. But a really, really solid run. They held down the corner of Impala really well, and it's easy to just like hide behind the windowsills. But let's roll it back to this Nenebete play. I'll let the shotgun speak for itself.
1v3 by himself, 1 by 1. Nenebete making magic work right there. Great game for all of the teams. Well, I can't say all of the teams in day one, but great action for all of us. And we're going to close it out on a day and toss it back to the desk as they break down this last match.
Let's go. Nongstrom Red Force started off the day with a chicken dinner, and they get the last laugh here at the start, Cameron.
Yeah, and to be honest, they were not in the driver's seat for the majority of that. Impala, it was all Morph. They had the best position, but in their search for the most eliminations, Morph actually ran out of Impala to try and finish off the clearance of the field, which gave Nongshim the opportunity, the opening to swing on in behind them and clear them out. So a really, you know, a great round played by Morph. Like, they still won with overall points with 20, but at the same time, they gave Nongshim just a little bit of slack, and Nongshim made sure to secure the chicken dinner there. Only 2 points behind overall.
What a comeback from Morph, huh, Seven?
Yes. I got the biggest smile on my face right now. I'm pretty sure everybody in Indonesia is going to be so happy seeing that the performance from Morph. I mean, from awful first 2 matches, yeah, they were able to get some elims here and there, but for them to be able to bounce back from it and almost get back-to-back chicken dinners here to end the day, that's gonna put them in such a great place, and I can't wait to see when we actually end up seeing the overall. By the way, another team, you know what, just want to throw this out there, Garena Power, good to see that you ended up getting some points. 9 points, we've been wondering where you've been. Well, you know what, it's good to see that out of them. By the way, more 14 elims. Is that the most that we saw all day?
Oh, yeah.
I think so.
I think it is, right? I was over here hoping that we would see more than 20. Okay, all right. I see you, Group Red.
I mean, on the first day, 7.
I wanted that. On the first day. I wanted it on the first game. Actually, no, it was Sandlog. I wanted it on the second game.
25 elims on Sandlog. Let's go.
You know, I will say that I think that if it's going to happen, it would be on the first day, right? Because as teams go on, they're only going to get more warmed up and better as we take a look at the overall rankings here, Cam.
Wow, so not only do Morph overtake Nigma, Nongshim Red Force overtake Nigma as well. It's still very tight at the top. Their 6-point gap between first and second is, you know, it's okay. It's good. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible either. Like, it's there. But look how tight it is up until 4th, and then a 10-point drop-off, then a 13-point drop-off to 6th place. This top section, it's going to be a fight for top 3 if it maintains like this right now.
By the way, we're hyping up Morph. I kind of want to keep an eye on DS from South Korea. I mean, this team, they were started off really hot, right? And then on the second half of the day, it felt like they slowed down. They ended up with what, a 9th place finish, 4 elims, 8th place finish, 0 elims, and they just continued to spiral down. And then to end the day here, they ended up with just 2 points, and it came just from eliminations. Something we have to keep an eye on, right? Because we're gonna have those teams like Morph that they are gonna be able to step it up, and then we're gonna have some teams that do start off hot and they're gonna start slowing down. I can't wait to see what's gonna happen tomorrow now with the way some of these teams were able to close out the day.
Dude, same. So I'm gonna go ahead and kind of reference the last group green, right? It was Stalwart that started off so strong, right, with such a huge lead. And for after day 1, we thought that, hey, it's gonna be hard to even catch these guys, but they did get caught and knocked all the way down to 3rd place. So Morph, they have a nice point gap, but they definitely cannot let off the gas here coming up for tomorrow, 7.
Oh, 100%. I feel like a lot of teams, and as you were mentioning earlier, Jukes, yeah, it would have been easier for them to break that 20 elim record, right, for one match or whatever on the day 1, because I feel like a lot of teams are going to be able to adjust tomorrow, and it's going to be a little bit harder too. With Morph, continue on what you're currently doing. I mean, it worked out perfectly. Now, for some of the other teams that are towards the bottom, we kind of have to call them out. At some point, we're going to have to see some life out of them. IG, FaZe, Garena Power, we at least were able to see some good points out of Garena Power here towards the end. But tomorrow, at least for the first 3 matches, I want to see them being able to put up good points.
100%. I mean, one team in particular that can't be feeling good, it's got to be FaZe, especially after Nenebete. But we got a nice interview. Let's go ahead and bring it back to the stage with Choo Choo.
Welcome back here at this stage, here right live in Malaysia, Beta Arena PJ. With me here today, I'm Chichu, your stage host, and we have none other than our translated Jung's very tall person, as he always does. And also, we do have the IGL for Morph. It's going to be Boo Boo Hoo. Very amazing hairstyle, by the way. How are you feeling? And are you satisfied with your performance here today, Boo Boo Hoo?
Okay, jadi Bobo, apakah kamu puas hati tentang performa kamu di hari pertama?
Kalau puas sih kurang, karena kita masih ada juga beberapa game yang kita buang.
So basically, I'm not really satisfied about the performance. It's because there's a few games that we throw away and we could perform better.
Why do you say throw away? What happened?
Jadi kenapa kamu ngerasa kamu ngebuang? Apa yang terjadi di beberapa match itu?
Mungkin kayak ada sesuatu yang bisa kita lakukan lebih, tapi gagal.
So basically, there's the things that we could done better, but unfortunately, it's not like success for us. So yeah.
Well, that's the thing about PUBG Mobile. It's so unpredictable, and that's the beauty of it as well. But speaking of which, you are so consistent for Morph. When it comes to game number 3, 4, 5, and 6, you got top 5, and you landed your chicken as well. And what is the main reason of such consistency? Is it the circle, or is it your strategy? And also, why is it not happening in the first 2 maps?
Jadi untuk MOV buat hari ini di match ketiga, 4, 5 dan 6 itu kalian sangat-sangat perform dan kalian tetap berada di top 5 lah dan hampir-hampir juga mendapatkan chicken dinner di game 6 tadi. Apakah itu karena faktor circle ataupun emang strategi kalian emang mesinnya lambat panas gitu, telat panas, ataupun apa yang terjadi di 2 match pertama itu tadi yang bisa membuatkan kalian tidak perform begitu bagus?
Mungkin di 2 match pertama tuh ya kayak kita masih coba dapatin atmosfernya, feel-nya. Terus kenapa di match 3, 4, 5 sampai 6? Mungkin ya karena ketika kita udah dapat atmosfer, ya aku yakin kami bisa kasih yang lebih gitu.
So the reason why we couldn't do better on the first 2 game is because of we don't get the feel yet. We don't feel the atmosphere yet. So and because of that, after we adjusting with the circle, we adjusting with the atmosphere, we already get our feel. Then we already confident to give our 100% or maybe 200%. So that's one of the reason why we could perform better on the other 4 games. Now, to follow up to that, we do know since last week, the circle kind of in the same spot for the past few weeks now. Now, do you think your expectation will be tomorrow as the same as today? Or what happened if the circle suddenly changed so much tomorrow? Oke, jadi kalau kita lihat di minggu-minggu sebelum ini dan beberapa hari sebelum ini, circle-nya itu seakan-akan di tempat yang sama. Apakah kalian ngerasa besok kalian pede dengan circle-circle itu bakal terjadi lagi? Ataupun apakah yang bakal kalian lakukan ketika mana circle itu tiba-tiba berubah nggak sesuai ekspektasi kalian?
Kalau dari circle berubah, kita udah pasti mikirnya kita nggak berharap dari circle-nya gitu. Karena ya di game yang Miramar pertama, kita juga emang benar-benar nggak punya circle gitu. Tapi kita ya coba berusaha untuk dapatin game terbaik kita lah.
Okay, so basically we don't actually hope for the circle. We just play by whatever the information that we have, especially on like let's say the first Miramar game we don't get the circle, but we try to play with whatever we have, and yes, we could get a top 5.
Hopefully that's the case tomorrow. Do you know you guys have been struggling so much since PMSL when it was really, really tough back in PMSL. Now you guys one of the best teams in PMGC Week 2. Now do you have last words for your supporters out there, especially from Indonesia?
Oke, jadi kalian bisa spesifik dari kamu sendiri, kamu ada nggak apa-apa yang mau disampaikan kepada fans-fans di luar sana, especially fans-fans dari Indonesia?
Buat yang support kita semua di Indonesia, ya kita berterima kasih dan kita akan berusaha semaksimal mungkin untuk kasih hasil yang terbaik untuk kalian dan untuk Indonesia.
So basically to our Indonesian fans, thank you so much for supporting us, and yes, we definitely gonna give our best and make Indonesian proud.
That's going to be the last one come out from Morph GPX for today. But will they still conquer tomorrow? It will be a different team getting the throne when it comes to day 2, week 2 in the 2023 PMGC. Signing off from the stage here from all of us, and it's back to the panelists. Take it away, guys.
More. I love to hear that because you know what? It is true, right? It's hard to get started here in a new group, new teams having to deal with. But I think they made the adjustments and they did really quickly here, Cam.
Yeah, very much so. Like they said themselves, it's all about getting your feet on the ground and getting comfortable. These teams have scrimmed against each other. There's been some practice rounds, but nothing matches the actual experience of playing live. My big question is, though, what's going to happen when the day resets? Are they going to start a little slower again, or is this only going to continue forward? Because I can tell you, Nongshim, Nigma, STE, they're all going to be chasing at their heels.
100%, man. And so in group green, it was Brazil on top. And to start off group red, it's Indonesia 7. And do you think that they're going to be able to maintain here and hold on with how they play today?
According to what he was saying, they should be able to, right? He was talking about the mood. He was talking about they weren't feeling it on the first 2 matches. After that, they were able to get on a roll here. I'm hoping that kind of continues on tomorrow. But the big question mark is, you did mention Brazil there, and I kind of want to get a chance to talk about them a little bit more. I wonder if I was just blinded by how well the Brazilian teams did on week 1, that we were just all expecting Inco and also IG to do good here on Group Red. I'm hoping we see some kind of reaction, especially out of Inco. I feel like if we see any reaction out of any of the Brazilian teams here, either IG or Inco, I feel like Inco has the better chance, even though, going back to Americas, they didn't place higher than IG.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still shocked to see a tense game at the bottom, and not just at the bottom, but with only 8 points here, Cameron.
Yeah. Man, I'm trying to think of like looking at week 1, how the points are going to scale up. Like, what's the cutoff for 3rd place? What's the cutoff for 11? I think week 1, last place had like 60 odd points, and so IG aren't even on track for that. I don't think, unless my math is garbage. Like, so it's not looking great for them. But hey, again, anything can happen. Hopefully they can reset after this. They can use these 6 games that we had today as an more understanding of what this lobby is going to look like. Because even, comparing to bringing up the fact that Alpha 7 and Loops did so well, Inco and IG not so great by comparison, even though during the championships in Americas, they were a lot more closer there. Lobbies are different. Every 16 teams, when you throw them in together, it's going to act in a different way. So perhaps it is just a more stylistic adjustment that IG and Inco are going to have to do for this particular collection. You never know how they would perform if they were in a different group, whether it would be green or yellow. But either way, this tape that they got today, the experience that they got today, tomorrow is when they need to turn it around, because this isn't a situation where you want to wait for the last 2 days, the last day, to really make that final swing, especially if you're gunning for not just the middle of the pack, but just top 3.
And going off what you're saying there, Cam, something that if we do have any hope, right, for the Brazilian teams, and when we've been covering those regions, when we did America especially, we know that these teams can get the chicken dinners, and when they get those chicken dinners, they can back it up with a big amount of eliminations. If for some reason IG and Inco can come in tomorrow and start putting up those performances, it's going to be a completely different story from what we're talking about today.
Let's hope.
Well, are they going to be able to do it? We're going to find out tomorrow. But before we do that, we got to give a big shout out to the official smartphone here for PMGC, the Infinix GT10 Phone Pro, a phone created directly for esports players. If you guys want to dominate the lobby, check out the Infinix GT10 Pro. Also, of course, make sure you're following all the socials and check out the TikTok, hashtag PMGC 2023, the new TikTok. I've been keeping a look at it. So much cool content. Make sure you go ahead and hit that follow button on that as well. Well, guys, that is it for us today. What is going to happen tomorrow? I think we had a great start here to Group Red. We'll see some more action then, guys. Don't go anywhere. We will see you tomorrow.